hovering from our boy Andy. Andy, always a showman, likes to show off the glitches, likes to show off the tricks. You know, he's been doing this game for a long time. He knows it inside and out. We might see some cool tricks you're not going to see from any other runners in this tournament.
Yeah, Andy's definitely been one to pull off some more interesting tricks. I called his first round matchup, and we saw an Ice Palace bomb jump hover. We saw the Moldorm 2 hover, both of which are pretty swaggy. So
absolutely,
it'll be cool to see what kind of stuff Andy pulls out. He's definitely one to show off tricks that he can do, and he's very good at it. So.
And will he remember that he is actually playing vanilla Link to the Past and not open up extra chests?
Looks like he's walked past that first chest, and we're okay there.
Andy getting what John Carl's rupee, the lucky 1 rupee there that basically guarantees him the victory. So
yeah, I mean we can kind of call the match now. I think Andy's got it locked up. He got the lucky rupee, so we're pretty much done here. It's all over but the crying now.
Yep, it looks like we're working on syncing up the times, so they're a little bit disparate, but escape a pretty boring part of the run, really, but, you know, for top runners, definitely something that can range for about, you know, 5-6 seconds of time. A lot of pumping, which is a strategy used, essentially mashing a perpendicular direction while you're moving left and up, allows Link's sprite to just move at a little bit faster of a speed because of the way it's programmed to oscillate between 1 and 2 frames. Kind of some boring tech to talk about, but can add up over the course of the run until we get boots, and then it's a bit less used outside of on stairs and some other opportunities.
Yeah, we won't see anything too crazy in terms of differences between the runners. They're really just kind of reacting to different luck that they're getting there. Like you see Gem taking a hit from a guard, unfortunately, but just little stuff like that, reacting to the luck that they get, doing that optimal movement that they can, and really nothing too major should happen for this first few minutes.
Gem missing the double spin on the first key guard there. He's losing a little time to Andy as well. They're going to be heading up against the really the final boss of the game, which is the chain guard. He'll take probably 8 slashes from them. If they do decide to play it a little safer, they can throw a pot at him, which does basically 4 slashes worth of damage at this point. But I would assume these runners probably are going to just be doing slashes. He does do 1 heart of damage a hit, which is, you know, Gem already down to 1.5 hearts. Might want to grab that heart that just got dropped just to be safe.
Yeah, probably see it. It's decides to pass it up. It's pretty quick to grab with the boomerang. He might be going for the pot strat and grab there as well, or maybe he just doesn't care and he has no fear of the ball and chain guard, just going to go straight at him.
Yeah, the nice thing about the pot strat is there are hearts underneath those pots, so that does speed things up quite a bit. Andy obviously not going for it, doing the slashes under. Okay, Gem going ahead, grabbing that heart. I think that's the right call. It's only like a second difference. I mean, that's the strat I use in general, but especially being down to 1.5 hearts, probably the best call at that point.
Yeah, I think like optimally the 8 slashes is only faster if you do it exactly right, whereas if you make any sort of little mistake, then you're better off picking up the pot. So really not a lot of time lost there for Gem, and getting that extra heart for safety also nice.
I've been known to make mistakes in Link to the Past, so I'm a fan of the pots.
Same.
So we've rescued Zelda already, so, I mean, really finishing off this run quickly, only 3.5 minutes in. Kind of surprised.
Yeah, they both already have rescued Zelda on some really fantastic pace then to get the world record. I mean, I don't know why it took everybody else 1.5 hours to do, but these guys have it easily.
We may see dual-wielding world records here, folks. Only 4 minutes in, Zelda already rescued, leaving the castle. Can't see anything going wrong with this situation. Second half of Escape definitely has a lot of variance in terms of RNG, lots of different enemy movement, especially with the rats and the ropes. Or the ropes are the rats? No, the ropes are the snakes.
Are the snakes, yeah. The rats are rats? I don't know. There's probably a fancy name.
Yeah, that's weird. Rope. But anyways, there's a lot of different variants on their movement, which can kind of cause different amounts of time based on taking a little damage or just having your path blocked. No risk of taking much damage at this point. Everything does 1/4 or 1/2 heart of damage, so they should be good to go. But just little time losses here, and I'm assuming we'll see both runners grab the Sank heart, but I don't know. Maybe Andy skips it. Andy probably skips it.
I've seen Andy skip it in his previous matches. It is only about a 2 or 3 second time loss, but Andy's played this game enough where I'm sure he's perfectly comfortable with playing Eastern with 3 hearts. That's kind of the real big spot where Sanctuary Heart does help is Eastern Palace. So
yeah, it also has a pretty big impact on the Helmasaur fight later on. It adds an extra hit, which you can take, and then I think there's one other fight it helps a good bit. But yeah, I expect Andy to skip it and Gem to grab it. Andy probably, you know, wanting to keep the swag factor up more so than even just trying to win the race. You know,
exactly. I mean, why even win a race if you're not swagging out carrying it?
I think his contract with Allegiance indicates that he has to be swag at least a certain percentage of the time.
I think so.
I'm assuming he's probably going to have to show some of that off on this race here.
Gem getting some slightly bad luck there with that key rat, ran up to the top corner, so we had to chase.
Hate to see that.
You hate to see that.
Yeah, Andy getting pretty good RNG with the rat, having a really solid escape here. Going to be a low 550, so pretty sure he just yeah. I'm pretty sure he just tied or beat my gold, so nice job by Andy.
Oh, yeah.
Casual. Yeah. But both of them getting sub 6, which is kind of what you're hoping for, and so, you know, pretty solid start for both of them. Heading over to our first pendant dungeon, which is Eastern Palace, which is a lot of walking around, but at the end we will get the Pegasus boots. Are they called Pegasus boots in Link to the Past? Because I call them Pegasus boots, but that might be a Link's Awakening reference.
You know, let's just say that they do. You know,
call them the ballet slippers.
The ballet slippers. All right, we can call them whatever we want.
Yeah. No, but once we get those, obviously movement will be heavily impacted. Get to move a lot faster throughout the world. Stop walking around. Gem going ahead and opting to get that sync cart, probably about 7-8 seconds behind Andy at this point.
Yeah, slight advantage for Andy, but as we mentioned, not a whole lot going on early on in this run, so any lead right now is pretty minuscule, pretty unimportant, as there's plenty of other places that this run can be decided. So
absolutely. I think the run really ramps up about 17-16 minutes in once we're at Land Mollusk. That's really where the run kind of begins to start getting some variance in terms of RNG and execution. The rest of the run up to this point is a lot of, I usually call it death by paper cuts, but small time losses, 1 second in this room, you know, half second in this room that add up over time. But the big variances start with Land Mollusk, then we'll be heading to Hera with Moldorm, which is a big one, and then to Aghanim, which is the hugest, you know, kind of RNG factor of the run. So we'll be hitting kind of a bunch of points where the run will ramp up at that point. I assume these runners will probably be within 15 seconds of each other going into Desert, so should stay close unless there's a big mistake. In this room coming up here on Andy's screen, you're going to see the Stalfos strat, where essentially this room generally has 4 Stalfoses spawn, but by precisely doing Link's movement, you're able to kill 2 of them before they even spawn, and the room decides that the other 2 do not need to spawn, so saves a decent bit of time not having to kill all 4 Stalfoses. They are kind of a pain of an enemy to kill as well.
Yeah, Gem also executing it very well. We did see Andy pick up that little magic pot with the boomerang. That'll save a couple of frames during the refill.
Yeah.
The game refills your magic. So anytime you see a little magic drop like that, you can grab it real quick. It is worth it to do so. Also picking up, Gem's picking up some arrows. We saw Andy skip past them. A lot of Eastern is grabbing enough arrows to kind of get yourself up close to that full amount for the Armos Knights. Arrows pretty important throughout the entirety of the run. So interesting to see that Andy decides to forego those first 5, but he'll probably pick up the 10 on the second trip into the bow room. And coming up on the boss key skip now, we'll see Andy take a specific damage boost off of the Popo, use it to grab the pot, step on that switch, and pick it up without having to kill all the enemies in the room. Nicely done.
It's almost like he's done it before.
I think once or twice. I think he's played this game a couple of times.
Yeah, I'm absolutely a fan of grabbing those arrows that Gem grabbed. It does lose a little bit of time, but having max arrows is really nice, especially, you know, if you make any mistake on Armos. But also you have the Land Mollusk fight in the next dungeon, which, you know, takes a decent bit of arrows as well. The arrows can be really useful in Aghanim's Tower. So, you know, getting your arrow count up early is a nice little boon. boon that you can keep for a while. And Andy getting 25 rupees in the Igor room, really nice. He's set for rupees for the run due to the tree rupee strat he'll be doing later. So that was a really nice find for him. And Gem still only at 1 rupee, hoping to get probably a drop from some of these Ropas right before the Armos fight.
Gem down to 1 heart. Shouldn't be too big of a deal. The rest of these rooms are pretty straightforward. Not too much to have to worry about, but it is a little bit of a cause for concern.
Yeah, there is a heart in the second to last room before Armos, so probably grab that. I would, but, you never know.
So Andy's setting up now.
Yep, there he goes, grabbing
Armos Knights.
Andy does the bottom right strat, which is kind of his thing. A little bit slower than the optimal strat. I don't know why he does that, but that's just kind of what he's comfortable with. Barely loses any time. Really solid one. Gem going ahead and taking some extra time to grab that red rupee that drops, so he's set for rupees for the rest of the match as well. Here you see the difference, doing the top right strat a little bit faster and executes very well. Still has 11 arrows. Andy only with 4 because of the decision to skip that one arrow pot. You don't know if those Igors are going to drop arrows or not, and so a little low on arrows, to be honest, but I'm sure he'll be fine. You want to head to Shirashalashala's house to get some Pegasus slippers. Ballet slippers. And on Andy's screen, you'll see the first minor glitch that's allowed in this run, and that's called spin speed. This is a Japanese 1.0 only glitch. If you do a spin and hit the A button on the frame after the spin while you're touching a ladder and do not hit a diagonal direction, you get to move real fast like that. You cannot use your sword, but you can move Pegasus boot speed in all directions, and so you'll see that used throughout the run in a couple of different spots. There's other variations of it using item dashing as well. It's not a huge time save in terms of minutes of time save, but over the run I think it saves a good like 15 seconds or something, and that adds up a lot when it comes to a run like this.
Right, yeah. I think overall the Pegasus boots, other than being required for beating the game, save about 40 to 45 seconds, and so yeah, a part of that is the spin speed. Little tiny optimizations basically in a handful of rooms. We see Andy going for another one, does get it the second try off the steps. You got to step onto the steps just a little bit to step off of them.
And you have to not hit a diagonal on your way out, or it click. Yeah, so that's the big thing. If you're having trouble with that trick, make sure you're doing cardinal directions. It only saves 45 seconds in the whole run. Yeah,
throughout the entirety of the run.
What?
Yeah, you could walk through the game. Other than, like we see here, they have to use the boots to grab the book. You also have to use the boots to grab a key in desert. But everywhere else, boots only save about 40 to 45 seconds.
I would have thought like maybe 3 to 4 hours.
Yeah, that's what I thought too. It was really surprising to hear, but yeah, really interesting thing to note. So both of our players have learned how to read. They'll be heading over to Desert Temple, Desert Palace, Desert Place, wherever. It's the thing in the desert.
Hangout?
Desert, yeah. Desert Bungalow.
Desert Bungalow. Yeah, I think Desert Bungalow is what it's supposed to be called. I think that's the canon. You gotta respect the lore. Very important.
Gotta respect the lore.
So here we're going to be seeing a lot of dashing. I think Desert Palace or Bungalow is a really nicely designed dungeon. I think the game's really starting to try and train you on how to use the Pegasus boots. Lots of long hallways and stuff to travel through, some cannonballs to dodge in between. So the game's doing a really good job of teaching you how to use the items that you get without, giving you a tutorial. And we'll be heading into this land moles fight at the end, which is one of, as we said, the highest kind of RNG / execution parts of the run. Andy on a really good pace. I mean, 40 entrance or something. I usually aim for a 14-minute entrance, so it's about 20 seconds ahead of that. Doing really well.
Yeah, Andy on really solid pace early on here. Gem not too far behind as well.
Although I mean, once you get to Andy's level, I don't know what is a solid pace and what's not. So
yeah, that's fair.
I don't know what it's like to be, to be a God gamer.
Could you imagine being good at a video game?
I don't know. I bet you even an esports team might sign me, because that would be so good. Cool. Yeah, that sounds pretty awesome.
Can you should talk to some esports team. Get some esports John Carl's going on.
Oh, I've tried. They actually sued me for contacting them. Yeah,
that's fair.
They were that offended by my times. Yeah, you do. It'll be interesting to see if Andy's able to keep up his swag quota though that allegiance is required from him. So I'm looking forward to seeing what tricks he adds to this.
There's some. I hear some good book spam, which is a very, very important trick for me because it's hilarious. So that's a good start.
You hear the book spam. See, I got chided for not doing the book spam because
you gotta do the book spam.
I'm not in on the book spam.
You gotta do it. It's important.
Yeah, I didn't know about it, so I didn't know that was such a big thing. So good on Andy doing that. That's important.
Yeah. So now they both are. Gem's about to go pick up the power glove. It's so bad. And then they'll be heading into the second half of Desert. We'll see Andy probably go for a very, very risky spin speed. Yeah, this one saves about... he didn't get it there. So that spin speed saves like a very, very small handful of frames. But if you jump off the ledge, which is very easy to do,
it saves
spin speed,
full second.
Is it really a full?
I think I timed it, and it was. It's at least over a half a second.
You're making stuff up.
It's over half a second. I'm telling you. It's a bigger time save than you'd think. It's also very risky because if you fall off, you have to do the whole dungeon again, which loses more than 1 second actually.
Yeah,
this is really about a minute and a half probably. So
I'm receiving word that Andy will go for Cactus Dash.
Okay, that's good to hear. Insider info coming from the chat. Also, a lot of randomizer jokes. You never get tired of those in an NMG tournament. So
right, they're just love them. So Andy coming up on the Land Mollusk. This fight, like as we mentioned before, one of the most RNG and execution heavy bosses. Land Mollusk has like 30-something spots that they can pop out of and 30 spots they can fly to.
2 arrows in the first shot.
So that, very nice. You can set it up so that you know at least where they're going to spawn for that first round, but every round after that is just completely reaction and execution.
Gets a short hop. So the thing is that when you get the short hops from the Land Mollusk, you're kind of at his mercy. You can't really get the shots in that you would need. Having a pretty decent first phase, getting 5 hits in, a couple of rough phases. I think that was a 3 cycle, but
yeah, it was a 3 cycle. A couple of short hops there for him.
Might have been a 4. I don't know. It's hard to keep track.
I'm having a little trouble with the Land Mollusk here.
Imagine acknowledging Twitch chat. Well, when the famous Willard J. Bradley of, commentary fame, really one of the best, commentators in the world is in there, you got to acknowledge them, right?
You got to pay respects. Gem a little low on arrows.
Oh, now. I've never seen that Cactus Dash.
That's some mad swag.
I like it.
In that Cactus
I understand. I understand Allegiance, signing him to a contract now. That's a big
exactly. Can you do that Cactus Dash, John Carlos?
I can't do no.
That's probably why you're not on Allegiance. That's probably what it is.
That's probably why I'm single.
Well, yeah, that too.
So here we're going to see a trick called fake flippers. So the flippers we are not going to get for quite a bit of time. They are very costly. So here you see Andy setting this up to basically leave the screen at the same frame as he lands into the water. And even though you do not have the flippers at this point, the game thinks that you do have the flippers, allowing us to go up to Death Mountain. It saves about 6 seconds. It does have the risk of soft lock, but I would say almost any runner under, probably like a 135 time is probably just guaranteed to be doing fake flippers. 6 seconds is a really nice time save in Light World, which isn't full of a lot of giant time saves. So really good trick there. Here we have Gem setting it up as well. Unfortunately, the flippers only required because of Swamp Palace. We could actually do Ice Palace without flippers, but Swamp Palace, just not possible. So but we will have to save up a lot of money for the extortionist fish to get those later on. So,
right, as mentioned in the chat, save and quit is not allowed in this category. As we just mentioned with that fake flipper soft lock, you are allowed to save and quit just so that it doesn't completely kill the race. But if that does happen, I think now that we're in the bracket stages, you're required to head back to the fake flipper spot and continue your run.
Oh wow, I did not know that. That's interesting.
So yeah, so it's still a pretty big time loss, obviously, but it won't, obviously it won't kill 19 minutes off your runner.
Yeah. I mean, even failing it and saving and quitting is going to lose you time. So,
right, definitely.
Like over just doing the what is it, Western Breeze or whatever people call it. So
yeah, call that.
Andy going ahead and heading to Hera. Hera is a very underrated dungeon. I feel like it is an easy dungeon, except it's not an easy dungeon. There's just a lot of ways to lose giant chunks of time in this dungeon, which is different than the dungeons we've seen before. Eastern and Desert, you really can't lose a large amount of time outside of trying for spin speed outside of Desert and falling. But Hera, you can fall against Moldorm. There's a lot of different places you can fall down several floors, and so it's a tough dungeon, really. It's one of those dungeons that you never feel super excited about how you did, other than you get really frustrated when you do poorly. So
Andy's setting up here for a trick to dash and throw the boomerang.
Look at this guy. He's taking a coffee break.
Yeah, so he's chilling in the chat with us right now while he's letting this tile room play out.
Andy will be back soon. Don't worry. Oh, I see him in there in chat. I like to see him chatting.
He's probably checking Twitter right now, see if he's got any snaps, that kind of stuff.
Probably, yeah, seeing what Allegiance has to say, like what tricks am I expected to do in this race? What do you want from me? What kind of t-shirt should I be wearing? And there he goes. He moves on. His break is over. That is I mean, I've never actually learned the whole boom dash trick in that room. It seems like a tough one. I don't know. I don't like item dashing with the boomerang. It's just it just feels weird.
You have to item dash one way and then turn the other in order for the boomerang to go down, but you to go right. And it's a whole thing. And it doesn't actually, technically save any time because you have to wait for the tiles. It's just kind of a thing where you have to do less things while the tile room's going on. We see Jem kind of dancing and dodging around the tiles.
Yeah, it is nice to be able to kind of rest your hands for a bit and kind of reset your mind. 20 minutes in the run, you're about to kind of go into the heart and potatoes. The heart and potatoes. What am I eating for dinner? Goodness sakes, meat and potatoes. The heart. I could have done one or the other. Combining them was just wrong. Oh, here we see Andy doing the first bomb jump, getting over to the moon pearl. That's probably one of the easiest bomb jumps. We'll see some much more difficult ones later, but also a very useful trick. And he is down to 1 heart, which is, he didn't flip the switch. He's got to be real careful against Moldorm. He could lose a considerable amount of time if he dies here.
Yeah, there's a lot of RNG in Moldorm. There's kind of a little bit of order to the chaos, but Moldorm can do Moldorm things very easily. We see Jem also skipping the switch. He's at 3 hearts, so probably a little more safe there.
Getting a nice pattern so far. Moldorm being very friendly, kind of just turning away from him and showing his tail. Andy taking it a bit safe, realizing his health situation, not wanting to, risk the several minutes it would take to die, and so doing a really good job there. Moldorm honestly really being very nice to him with the pattern that he gave. Oh, Jem taking a hit from the Dodongo. Oh,
that's gotta hurt. So he's got to basically start the entire second half of the dungeon over here.
Yeah, that means these rooms, he has to redo them. They are not cleared anymore, so he's going to have to redo each one of these rooms. Andy taking a considerable lead, and you hate to see that kind of time loss against an opponent like Andy at this point. It's kind of tough to recover that kind of time from someone in this skill, so bummer for Jem. Like I said, this is a tough dungeon. Everything does a lot of damage. The mini Moldorms move very randomly, and they do a heart of damage apiece. The Dodongos, they shoot that fire out. You're trying to rush through. You don't want to, you don't want to slow down for them every time, and so it just costs time. But gets up there real quickly. That was probably only 30 seconds.
Yeah, not too bad.
Yeah, at least he didn't, dying to Moldorm like deeper in the fight, a couple floors higher, and probably 20 seconds of the fight definitely costs a lot more time. So, if he was going to die, that wasn't the worst time to do it. But here we'll see Andy skipping the mushroom on his way back as well. Doesn't need powder. Never heard of it. I assume Jem probably also will be skipping powder as a 129 player.
I'm trying to remember from Jem's other bracket race that I called if he picked up powder or not.
Not everybody who's sub 130 would be skipping powder, especially in a race situation, because racing it's a big safety. But it is 45 seconds, and honestly, I'd be surprised if Jem, going up against Andy and also falling or dying in Hera would consider getting the powder. Just doesn't have the time to make up against Andy. I dropped it in my last race, just knowing my only chance, you know, was to drop powder and hope for the best. So
yeah, that definitely could be the same mindset Jen has right now. So we see Andy has set up for tree rupees by pulling on that first tree, grabbing all those blue rupees, and then he's killing a certain amount of enemies, and then he's going to be pulling this tree again. It'll drop 4 red rupees for him, which will give him enough rupees to enter into Palace of Darkness.
Really trolly situation there as he dashed. One of those guards spawned out of the bush. Really easy to lose your tree rupee route, because if you could take any damage in between those 4 kills, they have to be 4 consecutive kills without taking any damage. He would have had to do backup rupees, but doing a good job of dashing away from him. That's the worst when one of those guards spawns in that little cubby where you have the mushroom, and when you're dashing up past the bird to get to the Master Sword, it's really easy to get poked and have to redo tree rupees, which loses time, obviously. So good job by him kind of being able to react to that RNG and get through it. Heading into Aghanim's tower here. This is kind of an underrated dungeon. There's a lot of rooms that you can save or lose time in here. It's a heavy execution dungeon. Here we'll see a strat with him using his arrows to kill the first guy. Really nice optimal strat in that room. I always ring the dinner bell because I'm bad. So
yeah, same. We see, yeah, as you mentioned, there's a lot of execution in this dungeon, especially with killing enemies that either one of them will have a key you need, or you have to kill all the enemies to advance. It's something that doesn't show up a whole lot else in the game, so really cool to see a lot of different strats for killing enemies quickly. And we see a nice little chest turn on grabbing the key.
Oh,
there.
Did he get the chest turn? That's swag points for sure.
Extra swag points.
Okay, so our swag level for Andy is slowly rising. We've had a cactus dash,
so far.
We've had a chest turn, you know.
We had to stop in the chat while he was in the TA room, so yeah. it's a pretty decent amount of swag.
Yeah, I'm proud of him. It's very important when you watch an Andy race. You know you're gonna see some swag. You want to know how much, you know, and I'm glad we're not missing out on any swag so far.
We also see, we haven't talked about this yet, but key dashing is another little trick. Every 4 pixels, Link is lined up so that if he's dashing into a door, he'll actually just unlock the door and dash straight through it. So there's kind of setups for basically every key door in the game to get yourself lined up to dash straight through it. Tiny little time saves like that. We see how Andy deals with the Ring of Pots. It gets a little bit unlucky there from that guard, but gets around it.
Yeah, those of you who are actually from Rando, all joking aside, you know, with Rando, you do have to react a lot, obviously, to the RNG of the seed, what chests you get, what items you get, and such, and so that kind of avoids, you know, a significant amount of optimization. That's the kind of interesting thing about watching NMG, is that you get to every single one of these rooms is optimized to like the closest, clearest strat, and so that really shines through when you watch a player like Andy or even like Jem. These sub 90 players really being able to optimize every little thing, doing the key dashes, doing these little time saves in every room. And here's everybody's favorite boss. This is going to be completely random, so go ahead and chat. Guess how many blue balls Andy is going to get. The answer can be anywhere from 0 to 15. The average is 3, so whoever gets it correct wins $1 trillion, I believe, from Fiesel's pocket. Is that correct?
I think so, yeah. Andy checking the map real quick.
Very nice.
Wanted to make sure he's fighting
in fact fighting Aghanim, so
it's good to know. You don't want to fight the wrong boss.
Yeah, it's a good call. You don't want to waste time fighting a boss all the way through and then realizing that was actually, you know, the wrong boss, or maybe even like a friend of yours. So good job by him checking the boss. You know, checking the map there. Very important. He got his first blue ball there.
Yeah, so Aghanim will do one shot that you can always reflect back. The next 3 are 50-50 for a blue shot or a reflecting shot, and then he'll do that little lightning. So each shot that isn't one you can reflect back at him loses 6 seconds. So
yeah,
hopefully you don't want to see a whole lot of them.
Yeah, so essentially the first shot in a phase is always an energy shot. Then the next 3 are 50-50 coin flips as to whether they're blue balls or an energy shot. And then the last phase is a lightning one. So getting any additional phases is an extra 6 seconds, as Oglib said, unless you get an additional lightning cycle as well. And then I believe it's 18 seconds, 12 seconds. I don't know.
It's 6 for the shot and then 6 for the extra lightning.
Oh, okay.
So Andy's going to finish off with 3 because this shot will be a guaranteed reflected one. So average luck there for Andy.
Average luck there. Nothing that's going to give Jim too much room to catch up, but if Jim gets 0 blue balls here, you know, that'll catch up a decent bit of time. Not that far behind, even though you consider he died at Hera, he's still doing a really good job of keeping pace. So this map is definitely not over. Andy commenting that the map RNG failed. So
it was a bold strat.
It was a bold strategy. You know, technically it doesn't work, but in a superstitious world, maybe it does, you know?
Also want to give a quick shout out to Breathless Sleep, who was the first one to call out 3 blue balls. You can contact Fiesel for your $1 trillion prize.
Wow, congratulations. It's unfortunate for Fiesel losing $1 trillion while not even being in chat.
You hate to see that happen.
Yeah, so fortunately, you know, but he's made, you know, the speed gaming empire, he still will run it. So he's still like the Alexander the Great of speedrunning. Here we have Andy heading over to a Palace of Darkness. He is going to be paying the extortionist Kiki the monkey to get in. That's why we had to do the tree rupees. And then Palace of Darkness has a really cool trick called the hammer jump, which is one of the most, not one of the most, it's the most difficult bomb jump in the game, in my opinion at least.
Yeah, it's definitely up there. It's very, very precise, double pixel perfect. So I think
Jim
just got 0.
Did he get 0? I think he got 1, maybe. It was 1 or 0, so saving some time against Andy there. That was really nice for him to be able to get that kind of luck because of that death in Hera. So still a race going on for us for sure.
Fiesel in the chat. Hopefully he's aware that he's just lost $1 trillion.
Yeah, I'm sorry, Fiesel. We gambled $1 trillion of your dollars to whoever guessed the blue balls correctly, and somebody did. So they're gonna go ahead and ask for your Venmo. Palace of Darkness here, we're going to be accumulating a lot of bombs. These will be the bombs that we use for the rest of the match. That's not just because of the bomb jump, but just any bombs we need for the rest of the game are basically accumulated here. And having the mirror now allows us to do this a lot quicker. We can go to where we want, get the bomb, get the key, and then just mirror out. So nice use of the mirror here in the routing.
Yeah, this route through Palace of Darkness is actually just a slight bit slower than an optimal route, but it does let you get extra bombs, which does save time. So you'll see a lot of that grabbing what you need, grabbing a key or something, and then mirroring back, and then grabbing one of the bombs in this room to kind of top up yourself on bombs that you'll need for the rest of the run.
Andy dashing into that jellyfish and getting electrocuted, unfortunately. Probably not at any risk of not having sword beams, which do save you time later in the dungeon, but always a bummer to try and do that dash and get, you know, some bad luck with the jellyfish.
Yeah, that jelly is a real mean guy. I've actually slashed my sword with sword beams a couple times and had the sword beam just wrap around the jelly. That was really fun. I really liked that.
Yeah, you liked that a lot?
It was great. I was thrilled about it happening.
Jem, you saw there doing a nice little dash cancel with Kiki going into the entrance. He does take a very long time to walk up and open the palace if you do not do that. So definitely another one of those small little time saves you might not notice going through it. And time saves you won't notice in Rando because we've taken them out in order to make the game more fun.
Sure.
Okay,
so Andy lining up his bomb.
Oh, Andy messing up the bomb jump, doing one buffer, trying to do it quickly, and unfortunately not lining it up. I think his first lineup was off.
I wasn't sure if the bomb was in the right spot. Looked like Link was okay.
Okay, and he's good to go. Gets it bufferless second try. He says, you know what, this is child's play to me, but definitely going to be saving some time for Jem if Jem's able to do this first try, able to maybe chip away at that lead a bit. I don't know. We'll have to look at sort up after Palace of Darkness, see what the time difference is between these runners.
Yeah, so that is going to actually mean that Andy won't have the sword beams as you mentioned earlier for the second half. So he'll lose a little bit of time to some extra menuing coming up. But yeah,
it also will give him a little less leeway against Helmasaur. Unless he gets a heart drop from one of these Igors, he's gonna, actually he will still have 3 hits. Oh no, because of, no, it doesn't change anything because he doesn't have Sank Heart, so never mind. So this is where the Sankart comes into play. If he had Sankart right now and did happen to have full health, he would be able to, you know, take 3 hits from Helmasaur without dying. Now he can only take 2. And Gem doing some extra buffers, but getting bomb jump first try, so good job. You can see the words MC in there. Why is he going inside? Oh, he has to go inside to get the key. Oh my gosh!
John, have you played this game before?
I don't remember what the game is. I you know. Somebody in chat asking.
That's a mistake we've seen quite a few times, is people forgetting to grab that key. So
somebody in chat asking for paid. I think that proving that we are not paid. We are not paid.
We're not,
I mean, we can't. The thing is, you can't give out $1 trillion prizes and pay your commentators. So
yeah, it's really one or the other. And,
ooh, Gem taking that hit, and unfortunately now we'll have 1 less heart to be able to get sword beams.
Yeah,
that's kind of a real bummer. We'll see if neither of these runners getting sword beams, so that's not going to be something that Gem can catch up time. And ALG Andy heading into Helmasaur, 17 hits on the mask, and then either 4 hammer hits or 8 slashes on the final phase. Getting some pretty favorable patterns so far. No fireballs. That was a really quick mask. Not even. Oh gosh. Okay, he is 1 hit away. He's going for the hammer hits. Oh, and Andy pulling it off, being clutch. Andy could have taken that a bit slower. What can happen is if you knock off the mask, it turns into 9 different sprites, and so if there are any fireballs on the screen when you break the mask, they will despawn. And he could have waited for that, but he knew that, ooh, Gem going for a swag boomerang hit. I've never seen that. But, you know, Andy going full tilt on that boss and almost paid for it, but, you know, it worked out. That's the thing, the confidence that these top run players have. They've done this so many times. They are, you know, not really willing to take it a little bit safe. Probably knows he's in the lead, but still pushing forward as fast as he can, you know, and, you know, that could open up an opportunity for Gem to take a lead at some point if a mistake like that happens. But Andy, a seasoned player, you know, just clutching that out. Those hammer hits really helping. The hammer hits do 2 hits of sword hits of damage, and so you only need 4 of them on phase 2 instead of 8 slashes. So pulling that out well. Okay,
yeah, it's really hard to hit the hammer. The hitbox is really
Gem
small.
going for them as well. Gem has 1 extra hit allowed for him. He's good to go. So really
very nice fight.
Yeah, very nice fight by Gem. I didn't see Andy's sword up. It looked like it was like a 36-30. Let's see how far behind Gem is.
Gem going to be about 45 to 50 seconds behind them, leaving Palace of Darkness.
Keeping decent pace, probably beating himself up a bit for the death in Hera, but you know, still in the race for sure. Here on Andy's screen, you see a nice item dash. That's a Japanese 1.0 glitch as well. If you can hit the Y and A button at the same time, you can do that yourselves as well. Although it's hard to hit those 2 buttons at the same time for me. I don't know. When those enemies are closing in, sometimes it just doesn't seem to work. But
yeah, that's actually you pretty much can mess it up one time, otherwise you'll get hit by the enemies, and then you'll try to hammer dash anyways, even though you know it doesn't work, and you get hit again, and then you get really upset and you cry a little bit. Or
yeah, you do cry.
That's you too. Okay, good.
I was gonna say cry actually at the same time because we're kindred spirits. So you know. Sometimes you have to be willing to cry when you're Link to the Past speedrunner. Yeah, it looks like about a minute behind for Gem, maybe a minute 5 seconds. So it's still within striking distance, though. He's not out of this race by any stretch of the imagination. But most of the difference of time being that, you know, that death in Hera. He lost about 30-40 seconds to that death in Hera, and you know, that's kind of the difference in the match right now. But plenty of game left to play as Andy is heading over to Thieves Town. He's going to go ahead and activate the flute. That'll allow us to have some quick travel throughout the land. And then most runners would be going to get powder, but these runners didn't grab the mushroom, don't need it. They'll be heading right into Dark World and heading to Thieves Town.
Right. Normally the game, it numbers the next dungeons to the Dark World, and we're actually going to Dungeon 4 first, which it's not because they can't count. Although I can't count, but there's a better reason for it. Getting the Titan's Mitts in Thieves Town allows you to get to the Tempered Sword, which is the strongest sword you'll see our runners using. So getting to that sword as quickly as possible saves some time, and also with the routing through the overworld lets you get the flute very quickly as well.
Yeah.
So.
Also, right next to Skullwoods, it just completely makes sense. It's the fastest way to go.
Right. Yeah.
Both runners hopefully getting first try dig here.
We did see Andy get it. Oh, Gem!
Try dig.
Gem with the third try dig. Just gonna dance around the portal there. You don't want to go back into the portal and have to warp back.
Sometimes you need a couple digs to find that. You know, still good RNG. You know, 3 digs isn't bad. Odd location on his warp there kind of threw him off. I don't know if he meant to warp so high, but he kind of warped right on the spot he needed to dig, and I think probably, you know, smartly avoided getting back into the portal and didn't care about the number of digs as much, because the portal transition screen, you know, going back and forth costs quite a bit of time. So
yeah. So Andy in Thieves Town now, which is actually, did you know this, John Carlos? It's actually also
whatever it is, I don't know it.
It's also known as Gargoyle's Domain.
Where is that written down?
I looked it up on the wiki. On some wiki, it's known as Gargoyle's Domain. I don't know.
You know, I normally wouldn't believe you, but you're the kind of guy who really respects the lore. So
you gotta respect the lore.
I'm going to go ahead and trust you on this one. Andy heading head to head to the Hellway, which is a very difficult long hallway with a lot of enemies and spikes and moving floors. You can find what we call the God Pixel, which will allow you to dash all the way to the top of the screen, but that's only still if the RNG of the enemies cooperates. These Patrick Starfishes really get in the way. Andy setting up, he's got the God Pixel and getting the full dash up through the hallway. Very nice indeed. That is very difficult to do, just setting up that pixel perfect placement, but even when you do that, you don't always get that dash. If one of those Patrick Starfishes jumps in your way in the wrong the wrong location, you can end up just having just as hard of a time as if you didn't get that set up. So really good job by Andy.
Andy showing his distaste for the layout of Thieves Town. Bomb that wall out. It really opens up the atmosphere of the rest of the
feng shui of the room below really does, you know, getting that northern lighting exposure really does kind of just change your whole mood while you're in that room.
Yeah, you get to see just a really beautiful sunset. It's just great. So really good designer choice there from Andy.
For sure. I like it. It does cost a little bit of time to redesign the castle, but you know, when you got a lead, you might as well use it for something. In all seriousness, obviously needed to go ahead and get to the Blind fight here, where we're going to be rescuing Blind and bringing her up to the room and exposing her to the light. Blind is a scripted fight, and for these runners, I don't expect to see them going too far off script. We'll see, though. Crazier things have happened, but you can align it. If you do not do it on script, the fight can get pretty out of hand. It's kind of a bullet hell. Gem taking a lot of damage. I mean, still only down 3 hearts, not too big of a deal. Losing a little time there on the Hellway. Unfortunately, just unable to dash up that last part. The Anti-Fairy and the Patrick Starfish just really hecking him up there. Andy going ahead, grabbing extra arrows here to make up for some of the arrow loss that he made earlier in the run, which is a smart call. And doing a little hammer dash, not able to actually hit the trigger, but he did kill the Stalfos. Heading into Blind with full health. Should be pretty solid to go here, finishing up Thieves.
Yeah, health isn't usually too big of a deal in Thieves. It's just really that time loss you take from taking the hits. That's more of the concern than the health.
Absolutely.
Itself.
It can be a bit scary if you go in, you know, a few hearts down and Blind goes off script, but players of this caliber not really at risk of that, mostly just trying to not lose time bopping into different enemies. Really nice kill by Andy.
Yeah, really solid.
Stayed on script and getting a 4250 crystal catch. We'll have to check to see what Gem's crystal catch is. No blind pun. We did not do any blind puns. I guess the chat didn't see that coming.
Nice.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Thank you for that.
Yeah. That happened.
John Carl,
that happened. So now we're going to be heading on a little shopping trip here, as Oglib stated. We'll be getting a bunch of money for the Zora, and then we'll also be getting the Tempered Sword. The Tempered Sword doing a lot more damage. You can beat the game with the Master Sword. However, it does save a considerable amount of time getting the Tempered Sword due to just Ganon alone, but the whole rest of the game too. All the enemies, all the bosses are going to go down a lot quicker. You'll be seeing Andy getting some 300 rupee chests and going and rescuing the dwarf to get that Tempered Sword before he heads on to Skullwoods. Gem we have here entering into the blind fight only has 3 hearts, opts to not get that extra heart right at the end, feeling confident, doesn't need the health as you said. Hopefully that doesn't come back to bite him, but I think he'll be fine hopefully.
Yeah, it looks like that first round went just fine. Second round also going.
Okay, he took a hit though, so he cannot take a hit from the head or. Okay, good job. Scaring me there. I think he should have grabbed the extra heart, but you know, when you're that good of a player and got a 129.
I mean, there's a reason that Gem is still in the tournament and you're not.
Wow. Wow.
I'm just saying. I'm just throwing it out
Could
there.
it possibly be due to the fact that my times were even worse in the tournament than my PB by like 10 minutes every time?
That may have had a small factor in it.
You know,
maybe.
God doesn't give with both hands. He gave me the ability to commentate because I can't play. It's like teachers, those who teach can't teach. Sorry, teachers. I didn't mean that as offensive.
Yeah, wow.
I've taught before.
Just calling out all of the teachers in chat.
I've taught before. But here we have Andy going ahead, getting that Tempered Sword, setting up those warps. It seems like Gem about 2 minutes behind now, I think. So, you know, pretty far distance for this point in the race. You never know, but he's going to have to be banking on Andy to make a big mistake. And misses the bomb throw as well. Andy
not going for Fence Dash.
Wow.
Really interesting selection there, as Fence Dash actually saves 6 years off your time.
Wow.
Really thought Andy would have gone for that kind of time save, but passes it up, I guess.
I thought Andy was a fan of swag, but apparently he doesn't care about swag at all.
Swag levels have dropped significantly without that Fence Dash. ALG is going to have a talk with him after the race.
I would really love for every Andy race to have a swagometer that goes up and down based on the decisions he makes.
Like it was up here. I'm holding my hand up like fairly high right now.
Okay.
And now it's down here. My hand's a bit lower.
Very useful comparison for the chat. They can now understand what you're talking about. Here, Andy entering my least favorite room in the whole game, which is this Gibdo room. The Gibdos do 2 hearts of damage. They move pretty randomly. There's ways to kind of kite their movement, but there's still no guarantee as to what RNG they'll give. They gave him a bit of poor RNG, but he actually reacted fairly well to it. Taking a hit, though, in the big key room, so down 2 hearts. Nothing too big to worry about, but damage does add up. He's going to have to take two hearts of damage to bomb jump here as well. So he'll have to be careful going into the fight.
And something to remember, if you die in Skullwoods, you die for real. Oh, and we see Andy missing the bomb jump. So
and then falls in the hole by himself.
I think he tried to hover there.
So Andy, probably hearing our comments about swag, going for a very quick... Oh, and he still falls. Oh my gosh, he's down to 1 heart.
This is actually going to be a little pretty scary, because if he dies here, it's going to lose him a lot more time.
And not dashing the top row, which kind of surprises me, because it does have a chance at a fairy drop, and deciding rather to just go ahead and keep pushing forward. I'm very surprised he didn't at least see if a fairy might have come out of that top row of bushes. It would have lost him, I mean, milliseconds of time to check that, but... you know, going for the swag, he probably heard us talking that his swagometer went down.
The swagometer it's creeping up now with this 1 heart.
You probably got a text from Allegiance saying, "Hey, you really need to be doing stuff like the Fence Dash there," and so now kind of trying to make up for it with that bomb jump, but just didn't quite pull it off. Oh, Andy
And he
taking a
takes a
death in the Gibdo Hellway. Not the worst place to take a death, to be honest. It would have been much worse if he got all the way to Mothiel and died.
Yeah.
Now he's going to go ahead and get 5 hearts instead of 1 and be able to go right back into the room. So, honestly, I was thinking he might even want a death warp in that first room on the
That's what I thought.
bar,
Yeah,
so.
he might just take a quick death warp, but
So
decides to
I'm
push
sure
it on
he's
him.
frustrated with himself, but also probably knows that he's in a pretty sizable lead here, so nothing too much to worry about. Here we've got Jim setting up the bomb jump. Oh, and failing. A lot of issues with this swamp bomb jump, which is kind of interesting because it is one of the easiest bomb jumps, but both of them also going for the non-bonking strat for it, which is a bit harder. The leeway for the number of pixels. Ooh, getting a very favorable start to his Mothula fight, and a very quick Mothula kill. Very nice fight by Andy. I don't even know how he got those hits in with him being so close up against the spike.
I think he actually hit him against the block instead of the spikes. Mothula is coded to not take any damage from spikes. So if you hit Mothula into a spike, any damage you do gets negated. So if Mothula is hanging up towards the top of the screen, it can be really frustrating because you can't get a hit in. You just have to stand around and wait for Mothula to let you hit him.
Yeah, I believe that only took 5 slashes for Andy out of a minimum of 4 to kill him. So really nice fight for Andy, very quick, and still keeping this lead even though he took the death in Swamp. I really don't think he lost more than like 15 seconds to that death, to be perfectly honest. So kind of a nice favorable death. If he had died in Mothula or a later room, I think he would have been a bit more off. Ooh, and that Gibdo, given this Gibdo is a pain. He has this key, and the strat is to hit him up against those spikes, which does some additional damage to the Gibdo, allowing you to get the key faster, but it can be tough to set up. It's real easy to mess up, and then that room gets annoying. Don't know if Jem got Jem getting a very nice quick kill. Well, must have done the double hit there. I think he only had to swing his sword 3 times, which is basically the optimal fight. So really nice job by Jem. Both of them doing really well on Mothula, the hard part of Swamp, but both of them struggling with the bomb jump. Kind of funny to see.
Okay, I was gonna let it go the first 2 times, but you've called Skull Swamp 3 times now.
I always do that.
I'm sorry.
It's not.
I didn't want to do it. I didn't want to do it, John Carlos. I didn't want to do it, but I had to. People are getting really upset in chat about it too.
No.
So.
Well,
You hate to see that happen.
Yeah, like the SW, the SP, like these combinations.
Yeah, they both start with S. That's rough.
Moth is definitely the hardest boss in Swamp. I will agree with chat on that one.
If you're fighting Mothula in Swamp, that's gotta be really difficult.
No, see, chat loves it. Chat loves me. You're completely wrong. I am a crowd favorite. Still mad at JC for the teacher comment. I used to teach. I substitute taught. I was an adjunct professor. I was just quoting an adage. But that's fine. It'll be interesting to see if Mothula actually does show back up in Swamp Palace.
Then who would have actually
done that there?
That'd be you.
Then you all would be. You'd have pie on your faces or whatever. I don't know any adages, apparently. I don't know what I'm talking about.
So you see Andy in the meanwhile picking up Quake. He's also going to pick up the Flippers. So a little bit more shopping before heading over to Ice Palace, which is the next dungeon on the list.
Willard J. Bradley complaining about the volunteer commentators, himself being a man for hire, generally asking 5 figures per appearance. Not every tournament can afford them, so this is what you get, unfortunately, when Willard's rates are so high. But here we have Andy getting extorted by the Zora. We need those flippers in order to complete Swamp, but it'll also make it quicker for us to go ahead and get over to Ice Palace, which is one of the more difficult dungeons for sure. It has probably the biggest sequence break of the game. Another difficult bomb jump, a bit more difficult than the one in Skull Woods and Hera, but not quite as hard as Hammer Jump. But it does save the most time. So if you're looking to learn NMG, that's the bomb jump you need to learn before anything else. It avoids having to basically go through the dungeon twice just because of the switch. So we'll be seeing that coming up. Ice Palace also having a very difficult boss in Cold Stare. This is the chance that Jem would have to catch up. If Andy took a death to Cold Stare, that would lose him, I think, like 3 minutes and would catch Jem right back up. There's really
not too much that you don't do through Ice Palace, so if you die at the end of Cold Stare, you basically have to do the entire dungeon over.
Yep, you really do, and it's a huge time loss. It's the most punishing boss in the run for sure. Runners of this caliber probably don't have an issue with Cold Stare, but he does do a lot of damage if the puffs hit you. I believe it's 4 hearts of damage. You can see there they only have 9 hearts, so you know, not having fairies, not having powder. It could be where Gem catches up. I don't think I'm worried about it for Andy, but you never know. Swamp Woods. This is all we're gonna remember from this now, huh? This is not the only time I've called Skullwood Swamp Palace. I'm gonna let you know that right now.
Nice little strat there to kill both of those Stalfos Knights with 1 bomb. As you see, Andy's only got 1 bomb, so bomb preservation pretty important here. I think Andy will probably go for the hover at least once for this.
Okay, and now we got swag. Andy, the swagometer has gone back up. Honestly, so quick with that hover. Not even a hesitation. Just really.
I feel like he's more comfortable hovering than doing the bomb jump at this point.
Kelpsie's heart in chat swooning as she sees her paramour just with the swagalicious hover. I mean,
whose heart isn't swooning after that?
I mean, I want to be able to hover the Ice Palace bomb jump. So that bomb jump that we were talking about, very important. Not needed if you're Andy, because he can hover over any little gap. So really nice job by him. I think that was honestly way faster than bomb jump too. That probably saves a decent chunk of time. I mean, a couple seconds. Maybe.
Yeah, it is a little bit faster than.
Yeah, that was sweet. Why are we calling me out? I don't know. This is what you get when you put John Carls on commentary. I apologize. Here we've got Gem heading into the giant Stalfos room. And Gem, I expect to not see hover, but you never know. You never know. And here's Andy heading into the Cold Stare fight. You have to get all 8 shots of that fire rod in order to free him from that case. If you miss any of those, you have to redo the dungeon, and really just making easy work of Cold Stare. Amazing spin setup to go ahead and keep Cold Stare in the corner and just finish him off real quickly. Andy showing why he's a pro. Gem doing a really nice job of the bomb jump, followed by the hammer dash, which is a nice little strat to save time. Lets you beat out that fire bar. And we are heading for Andy into, I would assume, into Swamp. He may do, I don't know if he does his shopping trip before or after Swamp. That's, I would assume after, like most people, but.
Yeah, I believe he'll head straight to Swamp.
It is optimal to do it after Swamp. However, some people, and in a tournament setting, might choose to do it after Swamp or before Swamp, just to make sure that you have full health for Meyer. I don't think that's something Andy would be concerned about, but it does help you you know, be able to get full health for Meyer. Vitreous is kind of a scary boss. Meyer too, using Sword Beam saves a considerable amount of time, so.
Yeah, having full health going into Meyer, much bigger of a thing than having full health going into Swamp.
Sure.
Swamp, kind of a dungeon we're a bit overpowered for. As we
he is doing the shopping now, actually.
Okay, so he's getting the, and we see that he takes the hit on Death Mountain. Death Mountain is probably the worst train in the game.
It's got a lot of RNG.
The Dead Rocks, like they're just all trying to mess up your day.
It's not just execution for that. It's also a smart move on his part, just because he does have a lead. It is a bit safer. You know, you take 3 hearts of damage going up Death Mountain, then and you aren't able to get a fairy up top here, then you're going to be, you know, really hurting for Vitreous, and that's just not something I would want in a race.
Right.
It does save time doing it after, because you have the hook shot, which allows you to climb Death Mountain a bit faster. But he's doing the strat that I generally do. We'll see if Gem does the same. If he does not, we're going to be a little bit route difference, so we're going to have to see where they are at going into Meyer then at that point.
Right. We're actually receiving word from the field that Andy accidentally fluted to 1. So
okay. I thought it was odd that he fluted to 4 afterwards, deciding to only do half the shopping trip. I don't really know why he didn't go ahead and finish it there. He does have the 1 bomb that he needs.
Yeah.
He can pick up another bomb in Swamp very easily in a lot of different places. So a bit confused by that, but you know, I think we can add that to the swag meter, the swagometer.
Doing stuff out of order, that seems pretty swag.
Yeah. Well, honestly, like the effect will be the same. I mean, the risk of taking damage in the shopping trip is for Death Mountain. It's really
Right.
not for Ice Palace.
Yeah.
So, or Ice Rod Cave. So, you know, it will make sure that he has full health going into Mire, but definitely a mistake by Andy. Not really costing him more than maybe a couple seconds, but.
Andy sneaking around that anti-fairy, actually very precise movement to get there, and doesn't quite get exactly what he wanted, but pretty good job nonetheless. So yeah, it looks like Gem has closed the gap slightly, but we do have to keep in mind Andy does already have Ether, whereas Gem will have to pick it up after Swamp here. So Swamp Palace, dungeon that there isn't really a ton of spots to lose like a major amount of time. Maybe probably there's one spot that will come up on where you could, but it's really just a mental error. But it's kind of a dungeon of 1,000 paper cuts where there's just a lot of enemies that'll bump into you. You lose tiny amounts of time here and there. And that's kind of where you see the difference is people making those small little errors, lots of 1 second, 2 second time losses that add up, as opposed to
Who
a big
would forget to
20-second.
flip the switch in a tournament match?
Who would ever in their life?
I can't
do that?
imagine. I can't
couldn't
imagine somebody
imagine
doing
either.
that.
I don't think anybody would ever do that.
So we're going to see a little bit closer of a sync here between Gem and Andy. Unfortunately, that is not completely accurate due to the fact that Andy has already grabbed Ether on Death Mountain. So it does have a bit more sizable lead than it appears. He does still have to grab the Ice Rod, however. So we will know kind of where they stand as they enter Mire. That's when their routing will sync back because of that accidental flute to one. Smart job by Andy. Accidental flute to one. Might as well go ahead and get the Ether instead of adding an additional flute for no reason. That would have lost a bunch of time. So here Andy going into the room, will he remember to flip the switch back? Or will he do what I did my last race, along with many other severe errors?
The tension's building.
Almost looked like he was forgetting it. He dashed out. He hit the jellyfish, and I don't know if the jellyfish kind of shocked him awake, remembering that he needs to flip the switch or what.
Jelly looking out for him there.
He may have been leaving. Well, we'll never know. Never quite will know what he was doing.
So we'll see if Gem decides to remember to hit the switch. I like how this is the big moment we have to build.
Yeah, Swamp Palace. Here's the thing about Swamp Palace.
Hit the switch.
Bump Bunny preaches this a lot, that this is definitely an underrated dungeon in terms of saving time, and it definitely can be. When you're trying to grind your time down, you know, every little time save helps, and you can definitely save, you know, a good 10 seconds just learning how to execute these rooms a lot better. There is a lot of RNG when it comes to the enemy movement, unfortunately, which can kind of affect you, but you can do some of these rooms a lot quicker. Nice little bonk by Andy, just showing off that bonk animation. Nothing wrong with that. So this is definitely a dungeon I think most runners kind of gloss over. They're more concerned about, I wouldn't say, you know, something for more swag, but just a lot of more punishing dungeons where you can lose a lot of time if you down hearts in Mire or in Turtle Rock. But Swamp, because Swamp is supposed to be the second Dark World dungeon, nothing does a lot of damage in here, and so it's really easy to just kind of coast, realizing you have no real risk of dying. It has the easiest boss in terms of, again, risk for dying in the Dark World. So you know, we may see a little bit of time caught up by Gem, but really this race is going to come down to, you know, Mire, T-Rock, and Ganon's Tower in the Ganon fight.
Yeah, Swamp definitely a dungeon that is easy to get okay at, but a very difficult dungeon to get good at.
Yeah, absolutely. So, there are a lot of different RNGs. Nice job by Andy doing most of the dash, stopping, and then being able to dash again in front of that tentacle. Really kind of optimizing his movement there due to the RNG. Let's see, Gem getting the second hook over. Really nice job by him. That's a really cool, swagalicious strat. So Gem getting a little bit of swag points. Is it like a swag balance? Like, does he steal those swag points from Andy, or is there enough swag to go around?
Individual meters. Yeah.
Okay, so there's enough swag to go around.
Because, like, what if we just had just a maximum swag race, right, where both runners were just going nuts? We wouldn't end up with zero swag. The swag would be would be massive. It'd be off the charts. Even.
See, I was thinking like they would each have 50% swag at that point. You know what I mean?
I think both runners could have 100% swag, maybe
Wow.
even 110%.
Wow,
swag.
that's a lot of swag.
Yeah, but I think it could happen.
Wow.
So Andy's setting up for a 0-cycle Argus. Looks like he had a little trouble getting the kind of glitch sword state.
Not quite getting it, but really nice first phase nonetheless. Taking it out on that wall a bit. It's okay, Andy. You only lost like 3 seconds from that. Getting a nice one cycle on the last phase using the fire rod there. Really nice kill by Andy on Argus. And Gem entering in Argus right behind again. The closeness of this race right now a bit deceiving because Andy does have the ether already, but still fairly close, honestly. It feels like Gem is caught up just a bit.
Yeah, I mean, like we said, that Death and Hera definitely costing Gem a lot, but since then, he's really been going blow for blow with Andy, been keeping really nice pace. Andy really hasn't opened up too much more of a lead.
He also did treat us to a 3-dig, which was very nice of him. I really appreciated that. That definitely added to his swag meter.
For sure. So it looks like Gem also missing the 0-cycle Argus, but does clean up the fight pretty nicely there.
Yeah, both of them getting the fire rod kill, which is a nice little time save from having to spin him twice. So good job by both of them. Let's see what their swords up are. Both of them in the same crystal cutscene at the same time. This is the longest crystal cutscene, but we got a 103.45 from Andy. It will be interesting to see what Gem has. And Andy going to go ahead, finish up his shopping trip, go and get the ice rod. I think it's a good call. Needing it to beat the game, I think he should go ahead and grab it at this point.
Right, yeah. It is actually required that you beat the game in these races, so doing anything that'll help you beat the game is usually recommended.
Absolutely. I would 100% agree with that. And here we've got Andy heading over. Oh, Andy getting knocked by the crab, only having 1 bomb left. So he's good to go, though. He can grab an extra bomb in Mire, but that's a little bit of a time loss for him. Being able to, I think he's going to have to grab a bomb in Mire. Yeah, he will. So
yeah, you do need 1 bomb there in Mire, so he'll have to pick one up there.
Maybe from the bomb slug, but going ahead, getting that ice rod, losing a little bit of time. All these little time losses could add up and allow Gem to catch up. It just depends on Gem's execution, but he's really going to need a fairly major mistake to really get back in it. But there's plenty of places where that can happen, whether it's in Ganon or in Ganon's Tower, or even in Mire as we enter here.
Andy taking a really quick look at everything he's got in his inventory before heading into Ether. Just want to make sure he got everything he needs.
Sure.
Right.
And let's see if he does anything with the bird. People seem to love the bird meme.
He likes to just walk in. Andy...
Yeah, I like that. I respect that. I'm not a big fan of the bird meme. I'm not going to lie. If you're going to do the bird, you got to carry it in.
That's the one. I'll accept taking the bird in, just in case he wants to see my bird toss. I'm not into it.
I wanted to meme at the end of my time in the tournament, so I went ahead and went to the ferry to try to upgrade my boomerang. Apparently you can't do that.
No, unfortunately
# game knowledge. So I wish I had gone back and like carried the bird. That's what I would, if I could go back, that's what I would have done.
So it looks like both of our runners are entering Mire without full hearts. We did see Andy have a pretty clean Mire 2. Mire 2, another room to kill all the enemies to advance.
So he's still got the 1-cycle Mire 2, which is nice. You can still 1-cycle with the fire rod, so it's not too big of a deal not having full health going in. However, they do want to keep an eye on their health because Vitreous is a boss in which they're going to be damage boosting quite a bit. They want to make sure they have enough hearts to do that. Andy doing a nice little 3 swipe on the jellyfish there. Third try is a charm, and getting
dominance over the jelly.
Getting only 1 bomb drop from the bomb slug, which is actually kind of good because it'll save him some menus later, and it'll allow him to menu straight to the fire rod in a room later. And the thing, he only needs 1. Sometimes a bomb slug can drop up to 8, and you don't want that really.
Gem also neglecting the bird, just walking straight in. Shoutouts to this cutscene where nothing happens on the screen you're on. It's all going on and then screen over, but you don't see any of it.
I don't even know what the screen over looks like normally because
I think there's just a big wall right there, and it's just in the way, and then you walk back over. And
there's nothing kids love more than a shaking room where nothing's happening. You know, really nice job by Nintendo. Really just trying to you know, leave things to the imagination.
Yeah, so looking at their Meyer entrance time, looked like Andy's got about a 1.5-minute lead, so pretty solid so far, but nothing that a major mistake couldn't put Jem right back in this race. So still a little bit of pressure on Andy to execute cleanly throughout the rest of this run.
Definitely. There were some very close points in this race so far that could have swung that 1.5 minutes. Andy having only one hard on Moldorm, for example, and also being down to one hit on Helmasaur, clutching both of those out, doing a really good job of executing when kind of the pressure was on, and that's kind of been the difference here. Whereas, you know, Jem did take the one death in Hera, and that's, you know, opened up a little bit of time for Andy to kind of pull away. Unfortunate because Jem has had a very solid run so far. However, Andy really pretty low on health right now. Only, again, at 6.5 hearts, having to grab that extra heart there. You know, if he takes too much more damage, this Vitreous fight's going to get very interesting. 6-heart Vidi is not easy.
He's got enough right now where it's not too big if you're comfortable with the Vitreous fight. Optimally, you'll take 4 hearts of damage. Sometimes you'll take 5, and it's not too bad either. But it's starting to get in a little bit of
one poke from an eyeball,
fight.
one, you know, and this would be a costly death on Vitreous because you have to go all the way back through the dungeon again. You don't have to do every room like he just did, unlike Ice Palace, but you do have to do a good number of the rooms again, and so it's definitely a several-minute issue. So he's going to have to be really careful on this fight. Here you see, by only having one bomb, being able to just go ahead and fire rod that switch right there. So kind of nice favor, only getting one bomb from the bomb slug, saving him a menu. Actually saving him 2 menus, so kind of nice. No, I guess only 1 menu, but still. I like saving menus.
Yeah, it's always nice. Honestly, menus take a lot longer than you think. Any spot where you can save them, like we mentioned in Palace of Darkness as well, you can save a menu. It actually will add up pretty quickly.
Yeah, Andy's making it clear that he's not too worried. Ooh, jumps in front of the eyeball real quick, but he's good to go. 1.5 hearts. Like we said, cutting it close, but Andy showing his skill, honestly, being able to go into these bosses with very low health and just staying confident and not having to worry about it. That's kind of the sign of somebody who's that good at this game. You know, being able to go into Vitreous with 6.5 hearts and just, you know, optimally execute the strat. That's pretty clutch. So if you're tuning in right now, some people asking, essentially Jem did die in Hera. Everything else in the run has been pretty solid from both of these runners. A couple of goofy mistakes from Andy, you know, accidentally fluting to get the ether early. Jem doing a 3-dig flute, which was nice. But for the most part, these runners just solidly executing. The biggest difference being Jem dying in Hera, probably costing him about 30-45 seconds, and the rest coming down to just execution.
Yeah, I think everywhere else has just been Andy getting little bits of time save here and there. Nothing else too major.
Nothing too obvious. Here we have Jem heading into the Vitreous fight. Andy will be heading over to Turtle Rock, which was one of the tougher dungeons, especially to be powderless. You know, the rest of this run is expecting you to have blue mail at this point. It's expecting you to have more hearts, probably have some potions. So a lot of the enemies will be hitting for a good bit of damage. Really nice movement there, actually, getting the spin speed and moving around those dead rocks. Those dead rocks can cost you a whole lot of time in that little rock section if you get it blocked. So, and a nice kill from Jem. No issues on health for him. 0 cycle for him, saving a couple seconds on Andy. But he's going to need something bigger in order to be able to catch up in the race. However, anything can happen. Somebody can die late on Ganon. Somebody can, you know, make a big mistake in Turtle Rock, and you know, this can be right back to being a race. So Andy fully aware of that. Accidentally bonking there on the dead rock. Unfortunately, those squirrels are just real annoying. But only taking 1 heart of damage in the trip up to Turtle Rock's pretty solid. I think he'll be pretty happy with that.
Yeah, having to go through that awful Death Mountain screen for a 3rd time, and then the screen after that, a little tricky too. It's really easy to take a lot of damage, so having only 1 heart down moving is pretty good.
Yeah, it's tough on Death Mountain because you're trying to move quickly, but at the same time the squirrels' movement are very erratic, and so you really have to kind of balance those two thoughts. And you know, sometimes you can take 2-3 hearts of damage going in here, getting the extra bomb he needs for Ganon's tower later. Andy's will be fine with bombs. You might look at it and be like, man, he had 0 bombs, but there's only 2 more walls or floors that he has to bomb through the whole rest of the run, and they give you bombs right before them. So as long as you have one bomb going into Ganon's tower, you're good to go. So. And here we'll see Andy going into the roller room using some interesting properties of the hook shot, which gives you iframes while it's out to be able to go through these rollers. I think the game's intending you to probably use the Cane of Samaria here. Or not Cane of Samaria, the Cape or the Cane of Burna.
Yeah.
Going ahead and, like a pro, not mirroring out like some runners.
Some people. Hey, that mirror only uses about 3 or 4 seconds.
Yeah, I'm talking about myself.
So, same. I also mirror out of that room because roller room is
nice.
terrifying.
Taking the damage boost out of there. We'll see if he gets the fairy drop here. Does not get it. He probably will get a fairy at Poke 2, which is actually a pretty nice place to get it. Honestly, like, ooh.
Having some trouble with the chain chomps.
Oh, he is down to 1 heart.
See if
he should be okay if he gets
out of the room. Yeah.
If he gets the fairy in Poke 1, then he will be okay.
He did get a heart drop from the other.
He did get a heart drop.
That means
should get the fairy next. He did not.
Yeah, as long as he gets a drop, it'll be a fairy. Yeah.
Yeah, he did not get any. If not, he should get one in Poke 2.
Yeah.
So he should be okay, but if he takes a death here, that will give a lot of room for Gem to catch up. So he's got to be really careful. Kind of, the window is cracked open just a little bit. No fairy drop.
So he's
going to have to get it Poke 2. If he gets hit by one of those fire, I don't know what they're called. What are the things that shoot the fireballs at you in the room called?
The things that shoot the fireballs.
Yeah, if he gets hit by one of those or gets, poked by the Pokey, then he will have to redo a bunch of the dungeon, which would basically put Gem tied with him. So he's got to be real careful. I think he will get a fairy drop here on Poke 2. If he doesn't somehow, he's going to be in a lot of trouble. Yeah. He didn't get a drop that I saw on Helmasaur on the hammer jump bridge or anything else. No. So the drop table should be set up for him.
Get the fairy here. Good setup for fairy.
He's gonna
does get the drop. Okay, a little bit of trouble actually grabbing the fairy, but does.
Yeah, the fairy kind of trolling him, making him avoid fireballs while trying to get it. That was pretty scary, but it worked out. He did get the drop eventually. Would have liked to see it earlier. Got a little bit trolled by the RNG there, but he was going to get the fairy drop at some point. That was guaranteed. I like this strat, doing the double drop on the Cane of Samaria, sneaking in past that roller, saving a little bit more time than most runners do in that room. Pretty nice strat. Gem doing considerably better on health. I didn't see his chomp room because I was
went really well.
All focused in on Andy, but both of these runners in the same dungeon, not too far apart. We could see, this race come down close. Gem doing a good job of, keeping pace with this, with Andy. I think this Pokey running far away from him. He does get the, oh, that's unfortunate. You hate to see that in Poke 1. Sometimes
a bit of roughness there.
What's tough is that you're supposed to have the Butter Sword at this point, and the Butter Sword really easily does one spin on these Pokies. However, since they're doing Tempered Ganon, you have to get really up on the Pokies in order to one spin them. And so if you don't, they start running away quite a bit. And unfortunately for Gem, Poke 1 getting far away. Andy doing a really nice job in that Peg's room, getting some iframes right before the Pokey. Yeah. Don't want to take the 4 hearts of damage on him right there.
Also had a really nice laser bridge skip as well. So really solid second half from Andy.
Yeah, Andy getting trolled a bit from the RNG, having to wait for that fairy, and that's the tough part of dropping powder is like you really want a fairy you need a fairy in Turtle Rock basically. The game making him wait till the 11th hour to get it. Gem, big props to Gem for sticking with it on this race. He died in Hera, and a lot of runners might have unraveled at that point, but since then he's really just kept it focused. He knows he's going up against a 125 runner. It's a daunting task, and he's done a really good job of not letting that one mistake get in his head. So he's been solidly about a minute to minute and a half behind since then. Doing a real good job. Andy having a very clean Trinex fight, basically by the book. He got the double spin on phase 2, and did not menu over to hook shot, but that's okay. I forgive him for that. Heading on over to Ganon's Tower. Andy's 125 is 3 years old. That's insane. Oh, I always do this. Gem putting the Kina Samaria a little too square up with that tentacle monster guy, and it just shoots him right back over. So you got to kind of put it at an angle.
Yeah, good recovery there to reset it up and get the laser skip nicely there.
Absolutely.
So.
Oh,
a little bit of different.
I'm doing the same thing, setting himself up for doing a bit of a different strat, but setting himself up to get those iframes on those pegs. You do not want to get hit by that pokey. It is 4 hearts of damage. You don't want to be taking 4 hearts of damage right before you fight Trinex. So let's see if he does the. I'm assuming he'll do behind.
Yeah, looks like
he's going to do the behind strat as well. Oh, but shoots the
ice rod.
Misses 3.
This is getting scary.
Okay, yeah, this is getting scary. He needs to watch his magic. If he runs out of magic here, this is basically race over. So he needs to be incredibly careful. He does have enough magic to finish the fight. He is good to go. Phew, scared me a little bit there.
Yeah.
It's easy to get frustrated when you are fighting Trinex. Once you miss one shot, it's real easy to just kind of start firing shots off. And if you run out of magic in that fight, you are just kicking yourself for.
Ooh, Gem is really close. Oh, and he gets hit.
Oh, Gem. He was actually doing a really smart job of pause buffering, trying to see where he was in relation to Trinex, but I just don't think he did it early enough, and unfortunately taking a death. Really, Andy's race to lose at this point. He would have to make just a catastrophic mistake. He would have to have multiple deaths to Ganon deep into the run. Really unfortunate for Gem there. Trinex, not the boss you want to lose die to, and also I think honestly a lot of that came down to missing the those ice rod shots. Kind of got in his head, I think.
Yeah, definitely.
He cleaned up phase 1, but phase 2, he went for the double spin, and he was a bit too close with a bit too little health. He probably should have played it a little safer there. So unfortunate for him, but he will be continuing. Andy going ahead in Ganon's Tower. He's going to be heading to Ice Armos, which is a much tougher fight with standard arrows than it is with silver arrows, but shouldn't be an issue for him. Here, he does have 23 arrows. He needs 18, so he should be good to go.
Yeah, this is a fight where if something starts to go wrong, it gets really scary, but if you've done it enough times, it's the same thing every time. So, looking like Andy's setting up just nicely here.
Yep, the bottom right strat actually the optimal strat this time instead of the top right strat. So Andy doing the the bottom right strat on this one. He'll have to grab more arrows here and head on to the Mimics rooms, which are, this little stretch here is a pretty difficult stretch of dungeon. We've got 2 Mimics rooms. We've got this this spike room. We've got the gauntlet. So a lot of different stuff that makes this dungeon very difficult. If you're a runner that's trying to push for sub 135 or sub 130, and you're wondering where am I losing time, it's probably in Ganon's Tower. It's the hardest dungeon in the game to do quickly, and I would say like most people are losing a good minute in Ganon's Tower they could be saving if they really grinded it out and practiced.
Yeah, definitely.
These later dungeons really the difference makers between top runners and more middle tier runners like myself. Turtle Rock, Ganon's Tower, lots of time saves, lots of execution, really ramps up the difficulty of the run for sure.
Yeah, both dungeons a major challenge, both casually and
nice dash through Ganon Z. Whew.
Nice.
That is RNG, I think, as well. But
yeah, there's ways to react, but that was a good pattern there for Andy to just dash straight through.
Yeah, absolutely. When you're this close to Andy near the end of T-Rock, you played well. Gem did a really great job so far. The Fallen Hera not getting to his head, or not the Death in Hera not getting to his head, he really did a good job of picking himself up by his bootstraps, executing well, staying within range. Unfortunately, Trinex just going a little bit south on him there and losing him time. But outside of that, he's had a very nice run. Here we have Andy going into the second refight. We refought Armos, but on ice, just kind of like you watch The Lion King, but then you can go watch The Lion King on ice. You know what I mean?
That's
kind of what Ice Armos is.
Have you seen Lion King on Broadway?
I have not.
It's really good.
Is that something I should be doing?
You should do that. I don't know if it's still on Broadway, but if it's like a traveling show, hit it up for sure. It's good stuff.
Are there any lions in it?
Well, I'm not gonna spoil it for you, John.
Okay.
You'll have to find out.
Here we see some cool uses of the Cane of Samaria. Very interesting item. A lot of different uses. You saw it in Turtle Rock being used as a platform. You've seen it in other places using it as kind of a block to hold down a switch. And then here you see it being used to shoot in multiple directions, kill the Wizrobes with ease. Andy really low on magic. He should be okay because of this pickup. Yep. And then he'll go ahead and get the full refill. Tough part about doing, gold sword, dropping gold sword silver arrows is low magic in Ganon's tower for that specific room. You want to be able to do fire rod for Landmo 2 because you don't get the one kill with the silver arrows, so you got to play it real tight there. Not sure what Andy was doing in the middle of that room there.
I had a little bit of trouble. I don't know exactly what happened.
It seemed intentional. I don't know. Was it a thing? Is there a thing I'm missing here?
Maybe it's just he's just manipulating Aghanim 2 here.
Yo, I gotta do a little. Oh, there's the holler. Oh, that one.
6 seconds in the game.
Yeah, that one saves a pretty decent amount of time. Real impressive that Andy can just do this on a whim. Obviously loses a lot of time if you fail it. You fall. Oh,
gets the light
bounced around a little bit. Got to give a little bit self-promotion. Mega Man 2 Game Boy tournament started today. That is something I'm organizing. First race happened this morning. There's some races going on now. Definitely check it out. I'm excited that that's going on.
Are you going to win that tournament, John?
No, absolutely not. I am the 3 seed, but that is not...
I have all of my money on you winning.
I have literally no chance even taking a game off of the 1 and 2 seed, so...
So Aghanim 2, a fight where Aghanim spawns a couple of clones, and it's kind of the same deal, but the clones will always fire a shot you can reflect back. So most runners will kind of focus on lining themselves up.
Nice double hit. Can you imagine if they also could shoot blue balls?
That would just be really miserable.
Nice. That's a 4 cycle, I believe. So nothing.
Was it 3 or 4? Not too
bad. I think that was a 4 cycle.
It was solid.
I think most runners are aiming for a 3 cycle, but are happy with the 4 cycle. A 2 cycle is really RNG based. You really have to get hooked up to get a 3 cycle or 2 cycle. To get 2 triples in there is just. I mean, if you get a blue ball, you can't do it, and they have to be lined up in a way you can get them also. 3 cycle generally what people are going for. 4 cycle is completely acceptable. Here we have Gem heading into Ice Armos, Andy heading into Ganon. You're going to see he's going to try and get a 1-in-1. He's going to need to get 12 slashes on phase 1 and phase 2 in order to do that with the tempered sword. A lot easier with the gold sword. Here you're going to see the double spin with the pendant. He's got a nice little position here. I like when he's down here because it sets up this second phase well. He's doing the dashes, which is, I feel like, raising his swag meter quite a bit. I can't do that. I don't know. I don't know how to do that. It seems hard.
Yeah,
already on to phase 3.
Really easy to get those 12 hits in by doing that as opposed to trying to slash.
You might look at it and say 6 hearts, he's got tempered sword and green mail, that's scary, but honestly for a runner of this caliber, not too scary. 6 hearts plenty. Honestly, phase 3 and 4, not really much risk of dying. Really the only risk would be getting knocked down. Getting a nice free spin in there, switching over to the doing the torch glitch. The torch glitch means that you light the left torch before the right torch goes out, and you're able to basically only have to light the left torch for the rest of the thing. The intended fight, you're supposed to light each torch both times, but that glitch really helping making this possible.
Doing a lot of things the game doesn't really expect you to do here. Lighting that left torch before the right one goes out. Also using spin attacks to deal damage to Ganon as opposed to having to use the silver arrows to hit him. So quite a lot of things that the game isn't ready for in this
game. Man. And basically just a purely optimal Ganon fight by Andy. That was a really, really nice fight. And gonna come in with a low 126. I mean, not much you can ask for more from Gem. When someone beats your PB by 3 minutes in a race, there's not much chance you have, unfortunately, and that's just kind of what happens in these situations. GG's to Andy in the chat, please. We'll see if we can get him in on a call in a bit. Great race by him.
Yeah, meanwhile we see Gem working through the gauntlet. Got a couple more rooms to go. Not the best health situation, but not too bad either. Definitely have seen some scarier gauntlets for sure.
Yeah, he's got 3.5 hearts. He should be okay. Ooh, 2.5
Takes
hearts.
another from the Igor.
He does not have powder though, so that's gonna be interesting going into the Ganon fight. He may have to go down, knowing he probably is aware at this point that he lost. He may go down and just get a fairy. Oh, just barely missing the 1-cycle land mode 2. Unfortunately, the last worm diving straight away from him. Not much you could do there, but still a nice fight. He's gonna probably grab this heart. Yeah, he's going to want to grab as many hearts as he can because you do not want to go into Ganon with only 4 hearts. And he still has a decent bit of Ganon's tower to clear.
Well, now he's got 5 hearts.
Yo, Coding Witcher, thank you so much for the bits and the thanks on the race and the commentary. Much appreciated.
Oh.
Yeah, Andy had a really nice Ganon for sure. He's upset that he missed 2 spins because I guess those are the things you get upset at that level. So
yeah. Yeah, imagine getting a 126 and being upset about it.
Yeah.
But, you know, that's what happens when you're good at games.
Yeah, we'll go ahead and see if Andy wants to hop in on the call and talk to us about all of his race here. Jem, going ahead and heading into the end of Ganon's tower here. Looking to get probably a low 131, maybe? 132? Which is probably not what he wanted. The big mistakes really just being a death in Hera and a death in on Trinex. The death in Trinex obviously being the most costly. But ooh,
nice fairy
and
drop there.
Getting a fairy drop there on the 2 Helmasaurs, really just making up for any errors he made so far in Ganon's tower, making this going to be a lot easier. That was some nice luck right there. I don't believe we're going to see the same strat here on the Moldorm. We are!
He's going for it!
Oh my gosh! And Jem,
he's done it!
Jem doing the hover as well. The swag meter is just off the charts. Expected it from Andy, did not expect it from Jem. Nobody's going to kill Moldorm. We all love the worm too much. We're going to leave him alive there in the castle, kill everybody else. So, very nice from Jem getting that swagalicious hover past Moldorm 2. This has been a race of swag. I think that's the true story of this race, is the swag. It's the most important part of any speed game. Getting a nice get there on the first phase. Oh, getting blue ball there. Hey, and we've got Andy on the call. How you doing, buddy?
I'm doing all right.
Good race. GG's on the win.
GG.
You made some interesting decisions. I appreciated the flute to Death Mountain, and then finishing the shopping trip up later. That was a nice touch to the run for sure.
That was by accident.
Yeah, we saw you in chat.
There's no point in leaving if I'm already there.
Absolutely, you did a great job. You did a good job keeping up the swag that we were hoping for sure. We figured that Allegiance probably has you signed to doing a certain amount of swag per race in order to stay under contract with them. So I think you probably met that. I was pretty happy with that.
I mean,
sure.
There was no fence dash, so
yeah, that really
hurt
our feelings.
Really hurt. Yeah, it was a personal attack. I felt.
Yeah, so very surprised. Your meter went way down at that point, but you got it back up. You did the hover for Ice Palace. You did the hover for Moldorm too. So pretty happy about that. What do you think about the race? How did you feel?
I played like booty butt cheeks until like Ice Palace on.
Yeah, I thought you did real well, but that's just my opinion. That's why I have a 131 and you have a 125. So.
Lighthold was decent, and then Pod, it kind of went downhill.
Yeah, Pod was a little rough for you.
You did miss the bomb jump, which is always frustrating, giving a little bit of room to get Jem to catch up. Unfortunately, Jem doing a really great job of keeping pace with you, but died in Hera to one of the Dodongos, and that cost a good like 20-30 seconds. We were worried about you dying because you had 1 heart going into Moldorm. But Jem then shortly dying after instead. So Moldorm was real nice to you in that fight, to be honest. Like he really was trying to not troll you as much as possible, which was a nice touch when you had 1 heart and kind of made a big difference in a lot of the run. And unfortunately, Jem dying to Trinex right at the end wasn't too far behind before that, but that happens. Any parts of the run that you felt stood out outside of, I guess, falling during bomb jump? You had a real nice Ganon fight for sure.
I'm so upset. I missed 2 spins.
Yeah.
And I still got a gold split. I'm really upset.
That Ganon, I mean, I'm not surprised it was gold. That was a really, really clean Ganon.
So I got 0 teleports. I got 2 pre-torch spins in, and I was like, dude, this could be like the 140 Ganon that I've been dreaming of for 6 years, and then no.
GG's to Gem in chat, finishing off with the 132.14, so good job. Unfortunately, going to be eliminated from the tournament, but did a really, really good job there. Yeah, I didn't even know you could do 2 spins before the torch glitch, so welcome to me learning something. That was really, really cool.
Yeah,
also, I don't know if you saw it, but Gem also hovering Moldorm 2.
I did see in chat, I didn't see.
Yeah, Moldorm 2 left to live another day. Nobody wanting to kill him off, so very, very sweet of both of you. So how are you feeling about the tournament so far? You feeling good? You feel like you got a shot?
I got some work to do. If everything plays out according to plan, I get to face the sandbagger in group stage, Joe D'Amelio, next round. So
yeah, I'm
watch out for Joe.
Looking here at the brackets, you've got either Runner Watcher or Joe D'Amelio up next. So either way, a tough opponent.
Joe just got a 124.38.
Wow.
So I have some work to do.
Joe, an incredibly talented speedrunner. You've in all kinds of games, Aladdin, just able to kind of step up his game in any game that he plays and take it to a whole new level. So definitely an intimidating opponent for sure. But you did a great job in this race, I thought. I think low mid 126 in a race, really solid. Might not be enough against Joe though. So like you said, you're gonna have to step it up.
I think we're going to get Gem here in a second.
Any last thoughts on the race, Andy?
I just need to play like I did at the end the entire time, and I'll get a 124.
Easy.
Yeah.
Easy. Now's the time. Now's the time for the 124.
Absolutely. And we are joined in the call by Gem. GG's Gem. How are you doing?
Hello, and GG, Andy.
GG, Gem.
Gem, you had a real nice race. Unfortunately, two kind of major mistakes being a big part of the difference, the death in Hera and then the death in Trinex. But you did a really good job after dying in Hera, just kind of picking yourself up by your bootstraps and not letting it get to you mentally. So congrats on that. That was really good to see. A lot of runners would get very frustrated by dying in Hera and kind of, have the next few dungeons affected, but you did a really good job of just executing through those dungeons and keeping pace, within striking distance of Andy for quite a bit of time.
Yeah, Aga giving me 0 blue balls kind of helped mentally.
Yep, that did definitely help. Andy only getting 3, so not making up as much difference as it could have if he got really trolled, but definitely did help you kind of get back a little bit of that time from Hera for sure. We really enjoyed the 3 digs for the flute.
Some mad swag for sure.
Yeah. I'm assuming you accidentally placed that warp in that location, and you were smartly careful to not accidentally re-warp again, so completely understandable, but also a lot of fun.
Yeah, I thought Link would automatically dig to the right. I was surprised when he dug to the left, but yeah. Oh well.
Yeah. So any thoughts on the race for you? Like any parts that stand out, or?
Well, I got kind of mad at Argus because I just barely missed the 0 cycle there.
Yeah, actually both of you guys just barely missed that 0 cycle.
Yeah, you both got the last puff basically right as he was starting that animation. So really close from both of you on that one for sure. Any thoughts about the tournament so far? Unfortunately, you join me and Oglib in the people who get to watch the tournament now, but you did a great job for sure.
Don't lump me in with Gem. He's way better than I am. I'm one of those idiots who was in the tournament strictly because I signed up for it.
Signing up for it was a big part of why
that was the one thing that I did well.
was a very big part of why you were in it. But it was a really, really good race. I was really, you know, it was going to take a big mistake by Andy at the end, unfortunately, and you know that didn't happen. But you know, you still had a good run. Getting to the second stage of the brackets is really impressive. There's so much, you know, good competition going on here. And where did Andy die? Oh, Andy died in that's right, Andy, you died in Skullwoods.
Yeah, it was a short death, but
yeah, it was actually
John Carlos calls it Swamp Palace.
I called it Swamp Palace the whole time, so that's good. I thought you might take an intentional death on like the fire bar there, to reset your health, since you don't obviously have powder. But dying in the mummy hallway, not you know, not too costly of a death. It would have been a lot worse if you had gotten deeper into Mothula and then died. So kind of, you know, a blessing in disguise. Both of you having really, really quick Mothula fights. I think Jem only had to swing his sword 3 times, well, counting his dash, and then you only had to swing it 4 times. So really nice job from both of you on that, boss. But yeah, it was a really, really good race all around, I think.
I'm pretty sure without that skull death, I would have PB'd somehow in that roller coaster of speed run.
Yeah, that would have been. Well, you can save that PB for facing Joe or Runner Watcher coming up next. Any last thoughts from either of you?
Swamp sucks.
Yes.
Swamp definitely not the most fun of the dungeons for sure. You know, but ultimately the race came down to Hera and Turtle Rock, and then execution throughout. You know, two of the tougher dungeons, to, you know, a lot of punishing time losses if you make mistakes in those. And I think this race was a bit closer than this 6-minute gap shows for sure. Jem, you did a really good job of keeping pace most of the run. You were behind about a minute and a half throughout, so you should be proud. You did a great job. And I appreciate both of you for doing it, entertaining us.
Yeah, great run to watch.
Absolutely. What do we have coming up here next on Speed Gaming 2? We got anything coming on?
Looks like we've got a Super Mario Odyssey tournament race.
Is that newfangled Mario?
Yeah, that's the new one that came out.
Those,
it's pretty neat.
How many dimensions does that game have?
I've heard that it has 3, but there's thoughts that there might be a 4th one hidden.
Yeah, that's a
nobody's found it just yet.
Fun speed game for sure.
Yeah,
stick around.
We've also got some Link to the Past randomizer races today. I think Andy, you're actually in one of them coming up later on.
Yeah, today's tourney day for me.
We got, as you mentioned, John Carlos, Mega Man 2 Game Boy races, the Hat in Time race coming up. So lots of really good variety of stuff. So make sure you check out all the Speed Gaming networks, all 5 of them. To see some great speed gaming action. Go
check out that Mega Man Game Boy 2 tournament, because like, why does that happen? Why does that exist? Only some crazy person would organize that, and you know.
I actually can't believe that there's a Mega Man 2 Game Boy tournament.
You know what? When you have the John Carls, you know, throwing his weight around to get these things to happen, you know, one of my favorite games. I really love that speed game. Try and check out that tournament. It's going to be a lot of fun. Those are best of 3 matches. Usually take about an hour and a half. Pretty quick little matches. So that's going on right now at Speed Gaming 3 if you want to check that out, actually. But I don't know if we're cutting or if we have something else to come up.
I think we might cut for a little bit while the Odyssey guys set up, because they do have about 15 minutes before that race. So
stick around, open up some multiple tabs, watch some Mega Man Game Boy, watch some Mario Odyssey.
If you don't have 5 different monitors, each one dedicated to one of the Speed Gaming networks, I don't know what you're doing. You're doing it wrong, I think.
Also, go ahead and support our boy Andy in his rando tournament coming up later tonight as well. Good luck on that. Hope you do the winning. Hope you find all the things you're supposed to find. So
that's impossible. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I think that's all of it there is for us. But thank you all so much for watching and hanging out. And GG's to these runners. Looking forward to seeing the tournament as it continues to develop.
GG.
GG, guys. Have a great day, everybody.
Bye.